Lim, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. And Lisa, thank you. Thanks for taking care of my kids right now, too. I tried to convince my whole family to come up here with me today, but none of them wanted to come up here, so you're stuck with me. And I'm glad that Dr. Hobley kind of prepared you for someone speaking fast, because I'm usually that person and people are a little bit caught off guard. Hi. Okay, so this is Christian. So I'll start kind of at the beginning of our story and just give you kind of a quick rundown. We were diagnosed, hold on one second, you can't be down there. So my husband and I actually had a really hard time getting pregnant. It took about 18 months for us to get pregnant. And about a week after I found out I was pregnant, I got a really bad migraine. And I didn't know what I could take. I hadn't been to my OB to establish a pregnancy or anything. I had an appointment, but I hadn't been there. So we called our on-call doctor. It was the weekend. And I'm very thankful and fortunate that it was a family friend of my husband's family who was on call that day. And he met us at the hospital, and he helped, of course, started with managing the migraine, but Dr. Helton is his name. I know he's not here today, but I believe he was the first step in making sure that our twins had the care that they had. And we're very blessed that we had amazing care from the very beginning. But he could tell pretty quickly that I was either farther along than I thought, or that I was carrying more than one baby. And so I actually prayed for twins from the time I was about 15 years old. I always wanted twins, prayed that I would have twins. There's no twinning in my family, so I just always wanted twins. And so when he told me he was going to scan for multiples, I was like, this cannot even be real. And so, as you all know, they did find monodi twins, and he told us then that he would refer us to an MFM who would monitor for all of these types of complications that can come with identical twins with a shared placenta. And I remember our first visit with Dr. Bonzel. He's in Lithia Springs, Georgia, and he told us about all these things, including twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. I came home and did what all moms do, and they Googled twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. And I remember reading that it was so rare and that there were so few facilities in the United States that could treat this disease. And I just immediately dismissed it. I thought, well, there's not even a place in Atlanta that can treat this, so there's no way this is going to happen. And so at about 15 weeks, our MFM realized there was a very big difference in size. And I know you guys can, this is one of my favorite pictures actually, because it really does show after birth their size difference. And if I could get them up here, to stand side by side, you can see that there's a really drastic size difference now too. But at 15 weeks, he realized that. He said it's either placental issues or it's twin-to-twin. So we were sent to Cincinnati, and I initially met with Dr. Polzine, and they decided that there was, because I have an anterior placenta, there was no window for the surgery. And so I waited a week, and Dr. Polzine was on vacation, so I saw Dr. Lim and Dr. Hobley. And again, the same kind of scenario. We needed to wait. And so I'm very thankful that Dr. Lim did not want to wait a week, and he chose to only wait 3 days. On the morning of that third day, I woke up, my belly was very distended, and my mom was with me at the time. My husband had come home back to Atlanta, and I asked my mom, I was like, was I this big yesterday, like when I went to bed? And she said no. So we knew that there was something had changed. And thankfully, we already had an appointment for an ultrasound that morning, and everything I was thinking was happening was confirmed. And the next day, which was Good Friday, was the day that my surgery took place. I'm a Christian, and that day was very significant. And I thought it was just a way that God was just telling me that everything is going to be okay. So during that surgery, Dr. Lim and Dr. Hobley discovered a 90-10 placental share, and there were only 3 vessels that they were able to laser. So really from that point on, no one expected Christian to survive. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we named Christian. So my husband had decided on the name Connor long before I was even a part of his life. He wanted a son named Connor, so that was an easy choice. And he and I couldn't come to an agreement on a name for this baby B. And so we went back and forth, and we really didn't even have a list because neither of us liked anything that the other one suggested. And one day, Keith came home from work, and I said, hey, what do you think about the name Christian? And he said, I really like that. So we sort of started a list because we didn't really have anything that we had kind of agreed on. And 2 days later, our nephew came to our house, and he said, hey, have you named that other twin yet? And we said, no, not yet. And he said, well, I think you need to name him Christian. And we hadn't mentioned that name to anyone. So I realized that God was naming our child. And I realized a week later that there was a reason for that. And I remember telling Dr. Lim that I knew he would be okay, and because his name was Christian. And so we continued on the pregnancy. After 19 days in Cincinnati, we finally got to go home. Lisa will tell you that was the best day. I remember her telling me we might have to wait another 2 days, and I was like, you don't understand, I can't wait, I have to get home. I was just so tired and so exhausted. And so somehow she managed to get me in there to get released so we could come home. And we came home, and of course I continued bed rest and was getting ultrasounds multiple times a week. And at 29 weeks, one day, I believe, my MFM, Dr. Bonzel, he said, well, the Dopplers don't look good, we need to deliver. So he sent me to the hospital. I got a steroid injection with the plans to get another one the next day. I got another steroid that next day, and he came to see me at the hospital that evening. And he said, hey, I've asked them to send an ultrasound machine up to your room. I'm going to scan you again. He said, I don't usually do that once I decide that it's time to deliver, but I'm going to check again before we do a C-section tomorrow. And when he scanned me in my room, everything looked fine. The Dopplers that were abnormal the day before had all leveled out and looked great again. And so he said, you can't go home, but you're not having babies tomorrow, which was great news since we were in that 29-week time frame. And so they monitored me for a week, and he said, okay, I guess you can go home. Everything, they checked me every day, and the Dopplers stayed the same, and there was no reason to deliver at that time. So I went home and continued bed rest. I was on bed rest a total of 18 weeks of my pregnancy. I wish I could have stored up some of that time to use now, because I like to tell people I'm twin tired. So I wish I could use some of those weeks now. But continued those 2 and 3 times a week scans. And on the morning of 33 weeks, I woke up getting ready for my appointment. That was like my weekly pass to like get dressed and actually leave the house. And I told my husband, I said, put my bag and my pillow in the car. I said, because I know I'm not coming home today. I said, I can just feel that, we're getting close. So sure enough, we get there, and the doctor, Dr. Bonzel, he said, well, you're going to the hospital today. I said, I already knew that. And so we went, and his hope was to get another round, 2 more shots of steroids, since it had been more than 3 weeks since that first round. And I got 1 shot, and then the next morning my water broke. It was a pretty chaotic hour and a half. My husband was not there. He had missed a lot of work, and so he thought, oh, well, she's going to be there a couple days. So he was just going to come after work, and he was at home. And so it was a mad rush to get him back to the hospital, and they're like, we're going to try to wait for him. But thankfully, he did make it in time, and the boys were born at 33 weeks and 1 day, and I just had a lot of peace about their birthday. I knew that God knew their birthday, and my water broke, and it gave me a lot of peace knowing that he was deciding when they were coming, and it just confirmed that the doctors were right on target with when they needed to be born. So, Connor, can you at least wave, Connor?
No.
Connor had learned last year he has stage fright, so I couldn't even get him. I told him there's no stage, but he still couldn't come up here today, and that's okay. But Connor spent 21 days in the NICU, no major complications. Christian spent 29 days in the NICU. They were born at, Christian was 3 pounds, and Connor was 4 pounds, 13 ounces. And when they came home, they've just done really, really well ever since, and we just really have so much to be thankful for. And for all of you who are surgeons in this field and see patients like me, I appreciate that you're here learning about these things, because I have unfortunately met many mothers and many families who did not receive the care that they needed to have the intervention that could have saved their children. I know lots and lots of families who've lost their twins to this terrible disease. And I'm just so thankful. I didn't realize until after my pregnancy how fortunate we were to be in the paths of Dr. Helton, Dr. Bonsall, Dr. Lim, Polzine, probably everyone that we had. I didn't know that it was different than what other people sometimes experience. The boys are 6 years old now, they're in kindergarten, and I call them the Twinados. They're doing very well right now, by the way. So I told them there was a bowl of candy on the table, and if they would be quiet, they could eat it. So it's working. But I call them the Twinados because they tend to leave a path of destruction wherever they go. But thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today and to share our story, and just to show you that even when science and medicine says there's no chance that these babies are going to live, that God can do great things. So thank you for today.